Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everybody. It's Becky Brown, like Terry just said, and I am joined by Dr. Jill Hubbard and Marc Cameron, and we're taking your calls. We've got some on the screen right now, so don't hang up because we're going to get to you. But, don't get anxious. Here's one of the things that we hear about all the time is people are struggling with anxiety. It is at an all-time high, and I think part of the reason is because we all survived, or most of us survived, a pandemic. But it rattled us that, that's one of those key things of anxiety is that you feel out of control. And so, when you have a client that wants to come see either one of you and anxiety is the issue, how do you help them get through those first initial, just making that rapport? How do they, what is the process to help somebody with anxiety?
Well, we all have anxiety,
yes.
Right? But I like to take an attachment-based approach. So I like to help people understand how, that might be prevalent in their lives. And so the people who I see from when I think about attachment perspective, who struggle a lot with anxiety are the people who are either anxious avoidant, which are please the type people, or anxious ambivalent, which if you've read How We Love, Marlene and Kay refer to that person as the vacillator. And so people who are anxious avoidant, I try and help them learn how to live in the tension of disappointing others as they stand up for their own needs, right? And learning to be okay with it. And people who are anxious ambivalent, learning to live in the tension between ideal outcomes and accepting disappointment. And I think as people learn to see, where the roots of their anxiety is, they can start to make sense of it, and then you can really start to tackle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even along with that, Marc, trying to determine if there is medication that's needed, and to the extent, does that fit in with that approach? Yeah.
It does, but I want to try and help someone to see, what their baseline is. How can they manage their anxiety first? And for some people, it is so pervasive that, we do want to refer somebody to medication management, follow up with a psychiatrist to see if that could be helpful for them.
That's great.
But I find that even people just showing up and doing something proactive, like engaging in a therapeutic process, starts to help bring down the anxiety and that connection. And when you create an environment when we are calm, right, with them and are able to give them some feedback, right, and they can share some of the anxiety producing situations, feelings, from their lives, it starts to help.
That's so important.
Right?
The therapist-client dynamic, right? Because
really
that's where attachment comes from, right?
Yes,
is how do we rely on our parents to help us manage our anxiety? And so when we become that attachment figure, and when we can be calm,
use the relationship,
right? They can
them.
Help regulate off of our presence.
Yes, yeah.
I also wonder too if those that are feeling anxious feel anxious about going to counseling. That they have that narrative in their mind. I should be able to do this on my own. I shouldn't have to deal with this. I shouldn't have to call somebody. But I know what the two of you would say, but why don't you say it out loud? What would you say to that person who's saying, I don't need to have help for this?
Yeah, nobody figures out life on their own, right? We're built to live in community. So I would challenge that person to think about where you may have a little bit of, I'll be polite in saying this, overconfidence in your abilities.
Well, or shame in having to expose.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's really what's underneath it, right?
Yes.
But it's hard for those kinds of folks to even admit shame too.
Yeah, and you know what? Anxiety is a real thing. It is not just in your head. You don't just have to figure it out on your own. Like we just said, we can help you, and you don't need to suffer alone. Call us, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll get you connected with a counselor. We'll be right back.
it had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, he just one weekend, a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is coming to Washington, D.C. November 4th through the 6th. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. Emotional Freedom Workshop is online in December, and you can address some of that anxiety. If you don't want to wait that long, you can call us for a counselor, but we would love for you to join us. It's a one-day online. And we have group breakouts, which is such a valuable part of our workshop design. And we'll hear from Chris Williams, Dr. Jackie McHarris, Steve. It's a great way to spend a Saturday.
Especially if you're too anxious to come to a workshop
Right.
in person. This is the perfect
Right.
one,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And, our workshops are really a deep dive. So, it's a little bit different than regular therapy that, which we love, all of that. But it's really taking a time out and just saying, I'm going to spend some intensive time working on me, and I'm going to find some help. I'm going to find a redemptive community, and we're going to have a great day together. So call us for more information about that or go to newlife.com. We are going to speak with Gwen right now. She's calling us from Boston, Massachusetts. Terry, there you go. She listens on WEZE. Hello, Gwen. How can we help you today?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear
How
me?
can we help you today?
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to find out. See, I'm in the hospital. I'm on an elevator, but I thought that it brought me outside. Is there a lobby under this?
Yes, you got to press down.
Okay. Hi, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Yeah, my question is, I always seem to be, and maybe I'm not the only person, to get in relationships with people, with men, that I find out later on they had like a really traumatic childhood. Like my son's father, he saw his father murder his mother.
Wow. How have these relationships impacted you, Gwen? Why are you thinking that this is a repeat for you? Like you just seem to attract those kind of men.
His father got murdered right in front of him when he was 9. He's the baby of the family. And I just find that, like, babies, male babies of the family, their mothers is so close-knit to them, so they spoil them and they're not ready to deal with the world or something, But I'm trying to break this pattern, but it seems like I'm so old until I'm like, I can't be too late because I've had 2 marriages, and one of the second marriage was he was the oldest of the family. Out of 2 boys, his mother raised the other boy, and gave him to his grandmother. So he was angry about that his whole life, and just, I don't know. Right now I'm just with a guy, and I'm older than him, but he acts like he's like, he acts like he's younger than he is, but, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get away from him, but he's the baby of the family. Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask you, what are the symptoms of bipolar? That's another thing.
Well, so
'Cause he
Gwen,
said-
let's go with the first half of your question, and then we'll talk about bipolar as well. You're talking about how do I pick different types of men when I've been in this routine of picking men that seem to be overwhelmed with life and need a mother figure. I think that's the way that I would hear it. Mark and Jill may have heard it differently.
Yeah.
Okay, Jill, go ahead and you start.
Right, Gwen, it sounds like you are picking people that somehow you're drawn to in a way of taking care of them. And so I think while all these men seem to have traumatic childhoods, I would wonder about your childhood and your upbringing and what predisposed you to be such a natural caregiver, and that's not a wrong thing, but when it is at our expense, right, and putting us in situations that aren't mutually beneficial, that's not a good choice, right? So there's something in you that you're trying to repair, because even if the people seem different, like I can tell you're looking for patterns. Like, is it the oldest, or is it the baby, or is it this or that? To try to do it differently, but I don't think those are the variables necessarily that are the key things that need to be different. I think it's that it may look like a different person, but you're being attracted to the same type of person. And so that means there needs to be reflection that you do on you and your life. And
So
what
good.
is it that you're repeating through these
That's so
men?
good. Yeah, that's very good, Jill. Mark, how about you? Oh,
I didn't have a boyfriend for like 2 years, and I wasn't really even looking for one when I got the last one. But he said one time he was bipolar, and I kind of ignored him. But then as I watched little things, and this is the other problem, I worked in a mental health clinic. And, I think that makes me feel more sorry for people than normal people, I guess. I don't call people who've worked in a mental health field normal.
But I also
that's all of us.
I also wonder if you work in a mental health clinic too, because you like to take care of others, as Jill was saying, right? That, the process of dating, we're going to meet all kinds of people, right? Because you don't know someone until you meet them. But when you see a pattern that starts to form in your life, as Jill was saying, right? People who like to caretake others often end up with people who want to be taken care of. It's like a magnet. They see that and you get drawn together, right? But what happens is that secure people, they meet all kinds of people, but they set up boundaries, right? And then the other folks who they meet, they either adhere to those boundaries or they push back. And then secure people then distance themselves because they see that the relationship is unbalanced. So I think what Jill was trying to get to is there's something inside of you that's drawn to take care of others. And you're not able to push back. And then you get sucked in like an invisible magnet into these relationships. And now you're attached to that person and they're relying more on you than you are on them. And the relationship is unbalanced. But that could, you could have probably set boundaries from the start to create a more balanced
before
relationship.
you get to the point where it's like, how do I get away?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you are recognizing that these situations have not been the healthiest for you, Gwen. But recognizing that sooner, Mark, I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, because then you're trying to figure out their problems. Like, well, maybe they're bipolar. Well, what are those symptoms, right? And it's not yours to take on.
Well, and it's kind of like personal life and work, I hear, are merging a bit. That may be your job working in a mental health facility to understand diagnoses and how to help, right? But in your personal life, you don't want to create a mental health ward at home.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think How We Love would be a great book for you, Gwen. We're going to send that to you. That'll explain some of what they're not. It's not going to give you a mental health diagnosis at all, but it's going to help you understand how our histories do impact our present and our relationships, and how we do get attracted to people. There's core wounds that will attach with other people, and it's really insightful, and I think that'll be helpful.
It will help you have an attachment diagnosis, right?
Yes.
Which
Well,
then you can start to make sense of and understand and learn how to get out of.
I agree with that. Well, we thank you for calling, Gwen, and we'll send you that book, and we'll get you connected with a counselor if you would like to, work further on that healing process, because that will make sure, like what you were talking about, Jill, is that'll be the best step of a new relationship is, getting your own healing and getting kind of some stability in that way so that you're not looking for somebody to fix. We're glad you called. We're going to talk with Ray, who's calling us from Canton, Georgia, listens on Sirius XM. Hi, Ray. I'm glad you called. How can we help you today?
Well, thanks for taking my call, and thanks for being the voice of Jesus to us all here in Radio Land. But the question I have, you're welcome. The question I have for you guys is, I'm an introvert, but I'm very friendly, and my wife tells me that I'm not an introvert. So I'm trying to figure out, in the sense where I am friendly to people, especially to strangers, and but for some reason, it's other than my wife, I enjoy a lot of time alone. I was just retired a couple of years ago, and I keep myself busy and doing stuff at the house or going to help my father. And what I'm trying to figure out, is that normal to be an introvert where you don't really need relationships outside your wife?
Well, let's hear from Marc first, and then we'll go to Jill.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you called, Ray, and there's many people probably out there who are going to benefit from this because they're probably confused like you. But being an introvert or being an extrovert really has to do with how you gain energy back. It's not really dependent upon how outgoing you are, right? And so people who are introverted, they can be outgoing, they can be friendly, they can be engaging folks, right? They can be public speakers even.
They are loud introverts or outgoing introverts.
Right, exactly. Right? It's on a spectrum, right? But they recover their energy by having time alone, right? And we see this about Jesus. Jesus went and he spoke to masses, right? But then he went by himself and he recovered by himself too. So, but what I want to talk to you about, so hopefully that makes sense. But what I want to talk to you about too is about, needing other relationships outside of your wife. Because I do think it is healthy. It's healthy that you have a good, strong relationship with your wife and you enjoy each other and do things together. I love that. But we should also need other relationships outside of our spouse too, because what happens if something happens to our spouse, and not that that's the only reason why we want to think about it this way, what would we feel? And so I'm wondering if maybe there's a little bit of codependency going on with you too, if you're feeling like you don't need other relationships.
Well, what's interesting is when you say that, that's what I try. Like I have her meal ready when she comes home and everything. She's a teacher, and she's 7 years younger than me, and I do a lot of cleaning and everything. But I enjoy my time alone, and she wants some time alone too, to relax after the day. And but that's the thing is, you talk about Jesus, and that's I would consider him my best friend, but I also I don't think I am codependent on it, but what the interesting thing is, at work for 37 years, what happened was work brought me to people, okay? Mm-hmm. And so I was very generous and doing things, but not to get things back in return, but just that's the nature of who I am. And so what I do is, and then all of a sudden all that's gone away, but I just look at it as being a new season of life. What's the strange thing is that it's not so much, it's partly being shy too, where you don't, I have a couple close friends at work that, I talk to, but you don't see them as much. And so because they live further away and everything. And so what happens is you just don't, you get it from listening to the radio or, on the phone really, as I did in my truck for 37 years. And what I, your relationship is bonding like with the voices on the radio. And, from listening to great ministries, from Rick Warren to you guys and David Jeremiah, Chuck Swindoll, over all these years. But is it possible to have connections with voices over the radio and get connections that way?
So I hear you saying, Ray, here that you're on one hand that I'm outgoing and I'm friendly, and then I also hear you saying that you're shy, which are two opposite things. And I'm wondering for you, I know you can hear the music, so we're going to go to a break, so maybe you can think about this, and then Jill will jump in. I wonder if there's a fear of intimacy and going deep, and you are outgoing, but you're scared to show a part of you, and maybe there's a hurt. You've been hurt in a relationship before, maybe even when you were younger. So maybe that's something just to kind of think about before we come back.
Well, and the other thing that I want to throw in there, Ray, for you to think about, this is a new season for your marriage, and that brings up all kinds of tension. And so if you're home and she's working still, it literally is a new chapter, and she may be feeling anxiety about you being home, even though you're very helpful. I mean, it's great that you cook for her. That's wonderful. We'll be right back after this.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEWLIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I just want to let you know we are going to launch an Every Man's Battle podcast soon, and we'll get you the information as soon as we can. I have a little bit of an echo, Terry.
Sorry.
There it's fixed. That's okay. That's okay. Right now, and so just stay tuned. I just wanted to let you know it's going to be great. It's going to come out in a couple of weeks, and it'll be every week, and you'll hear great conversations, all things Every Man's Battle. It'll be great. We are talking with Ray right now, who his initial question was, that he was an introvert and doesn't really need people. Marc cleared him up on that real quick, because we do know that relationships are so important. Let's continue on that path. I think, Marc, you had a question for Ray to think about, and Ray, we wondered what your response was to that.
Yeah,
I was thinking.
Go ahead, Ray.
Sorry, Marc. I was thinking about it, and the biggest thing, and my wife thinks this was the biggest impact, is when I was a kid, I was so shy that my mother let me eat in my room a lot when company came over. And so I think that might be part of it. Because I really, as my childhood, I believe, even though we were under middle class, I think my parents did the best they could, and I was just very thankful for them. But I did a lot of the stuff alone because I didn't fit in. So that's what I think may have been the problem.
Yeah. Ray, I think you just hit on something. Because we, at whatever age we are, we carry all of our past ages inside of us. And at any time, we can tap in to how it felt. And those feelings of what it's like to go out and engage with people, and will we fit in? I think at every stage of life, people can wrestle with those feelings. And so when you are in more of a controlled environment, it sounds like you did trucking. So your interactions with people were over the phone or the radio waves, right? And short interactions, when you make stops, you're able to be very, very friendly. But these aren't people that really know you. And these are short interactions, which people can, come across great during that. But it's like if someone really knew you and knew that shy little boy that felt like he didn't fit in, would they reject you? Right? And so now that you're retired, it's kind of like you're eating in your room again. You're content with just being home. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you're so right about that. You're so right about that. It's amazing how I adapted so easily from going around seeing maybe 100 people a day to now just, being by myself because my wife's at work.
Right.
But like I said, the cleaning, cooking, and doing other things, and keeping myself busy, taking staying exercising and stuff.
Right.
It's amazing how I just adapted back to that so easily.
Right. It was second nature to you. And so I think your wife is seeing, she married you. She loves you. I'm assuming thinks you're a wonderful person. And so, and she knows you, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
But
we've been married 35 years.
Oh, that's incredible. But I think we all do need a few people in our life who really, really know us. And you need some same-sex friends. You need some other men that really know you. And so I'm thinking even to perhaps, are you guys involved at a church, to even get into a men's support group or Bible study?
This is what's so unusual, is that for some reason I feel more attacked to talk to women than I do guys, and I've never been gay or anything like that.
No.
Why would and why would that be? It seems like talking to guys, and the guys that I've been around are so some of them are so harsh towards women, and I see that, and for some reason it's easier for me to talk to women than it is guys.
Well, I wonder what your relationship with your dad was like. Your mom seemed to understand your shyness and gave you an out. And so women are softer and perhaps more empathic.
Yeah,
that way.
and that's exactly what I was going to say here.
Yeah.
I mean, Ray, we all go through similar stages of childhood, right? And when we get to kind of the pre-adolescent, adolescent years, right, we start to feel self-conscious and awkward, right? And we do need to be encouraged to go out and make friends. And it sounded like your mom allowed you to stay home. And I wonder if your mom was the one who you connected with most, and that's why you find it easier to speak to women. And then again, when you're talking about knowing people on the radio, I wonder what you were doing in your room. Were you listening to the radio? Were you watching TV? And I wonder if that's what felt like social connection to you.
It does. I've mentioned that to my wife. I can live my life through other people's emotions, and seeing it like in The Chosen, that series.
Love that.
And seeing all these different programs, you can live, or just go when you're at the airport, just looking at people, and you absorb their emotions from how they're interacting with family.
But here's the thing, Ray, that isn't about you. And that's what Jill's talking about. Real relationships where you are fully known.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
I think that's your fear, Ray. I think you're desperate for connection, but there's a fear of how to be known or being known.
Yeah, and even the unknown of being known, because I think a lot of times we don't even realize that we don't know how to be known. and it gets tied up in our histories. I think How We Love will be a great book for you to read, because it talks about those histories and understanding that. And boy, Ray, thank you so much for sharing, because you hit the nail on the head. We hopefully...
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop. A lot of people are you could literally say, in bondage from past trauma that has created an emotional web that they don't understand, and it prevents them from being free. A person that loses their temper regularly is not emotionally free. Someone who has anxiety just to get in the car and leave the house is not emotionally free. And walking around with the shame from a childhood or even a bad relationship as an adult, that is not emotional freedom, and we can help you get there.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Workshop is Saturday, December 2nd. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie Mack Harris will present information on the power of our emotions, procrastination, guilt and shame, and more. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or register online at newlife.com.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are so glad that you are listening. And gosh, we were just talking about how impactful, Ray, your call was to us. And we're going to be praying for next steps for you. And, if you can identify with what he's talking about, we'd love to help you. Before we go back to the calls, and we've got some, I want to talk with Larry Sonnenberg, who's in the studio. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Becky. How you doing?
Doing well. What's happening?
We have Every Man's Battle and Restore starting a week from today. So I've got an EMB, Every Man's Battle testimony for us today. Before this weekend, I never given much thought to the directive that we are called to love our wives as Christ loved the church. I know that Christ gave his life for us and took all the pain and suffering that was meant for me, but I never put 2 and 2 together that I'm called to do that for my wife. Because of this weekend, I will be going back to my wife, ready to bear her pain and minister a message of unconditional love to her, in the hopes that I can help to restore her sense of peace, safety, and acceptance. My biggest regret is how long it took me to get here. So, guys, wives, if your husband needs this, guys, if you need it, give us a call. It's not that hard. The hardest thing you'll do is pick up the phone and punch those buttons. And you can make that call and get some help that will be life-changing for you. It'll be generational changing. It'll change you as a husband, as a dad, as a churchman, as a neighbor, as a friend. You'll be a different guy, and that's what God wants for you. So we're just hoping you might come and do that. And just pick up the phone, call us, 800-NEW-LIFE. That's 639-5433, and ask the person on the end to tell you all about it. And if you're willing to make a gift to New Life, we would love to keep this thing going. This is your ministry. This ministry doesn't happen without you giving. So thank you for doing that.
All right. Thank you, Larry. And same goes for if you're a wife of someone who needs to go to Every Man's Battle, you can call us and get information not only about Every Man's Battle, but also Restore, because many times the wives will say, this is your next step. You need to go. but we are there for you as well with Restore, and we'll be in Washington, D.C. on that same weekend. So we're glad that you shared that, Larry, and we're hopeful for people to make that choice, pick up that phone and give us a call. Right now, we are going to go back to the calls, and we are going to talk to Jenna, who's calling us from Kearney, Nebraska, listens online. Hi, Jenna. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi. So I'm going to try to be quick, and if I ramble, I apologize. Just cut me off. I am I'm a recovered alcoholic. I've been sober for 3 years.
Great.
And I'm a working mom of 4 children. One of them is soon to be adopted. The others are biological. And I take care of my 2 brothers who are developmentally disabled. Just all of that to say, I have a pretty full plate. My job is I'm a manager of a facility that cares for people who are developmentally disabled, and my husband works for the same company. So we are just we're surrounded by caring for people, and I'm on call 24/7, and it usually never ever gets me. But my son, my oldest biological, he's sick, and he's 11 years old, and he has liver disease. We don't know if it's liver failure yet, and I have never felt so unhinged in my life since finding out that he was sick, and I don't know quite how to cope. I find myself isolating, and like I don't want to go to church. I don't want to go see my friends who I love, and they love me, and they love Jesus, and they would obviously lift me up, and I force myself to do those things, and I do those things because I know isolating. I always say that the opposite of connection is addiction. So I can't isolate. And so, but how do I get past the point of feeling like I'm trudging very, very, very deep water to do these things? It's just I literally fight myself the whole way, and then I'm fine. Of course, I'm fine once I get there. I don't know if that's normal or why I'm doing that.
Wow, Jenna, you have a overflowing plate. It's not a full plate; it's overflowing, and it only makes sense that it is pushing all the buttons. Jill, let's start with you. How can we help Jenna in this
Jenna,
crucial time?
yeah, you are amazing.
Superwoman.
Yeah,
basically what you described.
Congratulations on your sobriety, and I can hear that you've done work. You've been working at this, but you are, we were talking about caregivers earlier today, and you definitely are a caregiver with all of these people, right? But, and you are aware of this, I think, that you also need being cared for. And that's why these connections are so important in your life. But with your oldest son, here's something that you can't caregive away, right? Like in all these other situations, you can really do something for people. You're adopting a child, you're taking care of your brothers, you're at work caring for people. And I think there's a sense of mastery and control and being able to help, and that feels really great. But now you have this thing that is attacking your son's body, and no amount of caregiving can make that go away. And so I think you're hitting up against your own helplessness and powerlessness. And that can feel really life draining. And that's where you need other people to help hold you in this time. Not in a, overly social way, but in a more caring, intimate way where you can just share your hurts and your struggles. And there are going to be days when you feel just down. And sometimes we need to take a break for a day, right? But we don't go into a pattern of isolation.
Well, and to that point, Jill, it can be overwhelming to be even thinking about how you're going to connect, Jenna, that, just because it's a lot to deal with everybody else's stuff when you're so full. And that's where your recovery groups can be so helpful because it's very controlled. It's not just, a free for all. And, and if you've practiced recovery, going to a meeting can be the safest place for you to find that space for you to even express what you're going through. And it can be a very supportive community. Marc, what would you suggest?
Yeah, so I think Jill hit the nail on the head. And I said this when Jill was talking. You're basically Superwoman, Jenna. And this situation with your son is something that's beyond your superwoman powers. And what you're describing here is, that low feeling, isolating, not enjoying, the activities that you used to. I wonder if that's some depression that's creeping in as you are going through a stage of grief.
Yes.
Right? It's helplessness. I don't know what to do. You're having to accept this diagnosis, right? And then you're feeling depressed. But for you, because you're just such a doer, you are and it's probably a good quality for you, you're able to push through. But what I want you to do is to learn how to slow down a little bit too, and notice what is actually happening inside. What's your mental health telling you? And as Becky was saying, learning to be in community, learning to be in a group, learning to be able to share, like, I feel powerlessness, I feel helpless with what is happening here. And
right, and you've done that, right? You've done that before in your recovery, but now bringing your grief into the room.
But even in recovery, right, it's about your efforts too.
Yes,
this is not
true.
about your efforts.
No.
Right? You can't solve this. And so it's learning to share that with others and notice that feeling and understand that you're in grief too, and you'll likely move to the next stage of it too, and then also understand depression and know how to counteract that.
Jenna, does that sound doable to you, or does that feel like more?
It does, and I guess the only question that came to my mind while you were all talking, which a lot of it you guys really cleared up for me, and it makes sense why I feel why this is so much harder to deal with. But the one question that came to mind is I struggle, even like in AA meetings, I go to at least one a day, and I struggle to feel like a burden when I am not okay. Like I tell everybody else it's okay to not be okay, but when I am not okay, I feel like a crazy woman expressing myself, even like in a meeting. And I don't know how to get over that.
Yeah, and Jenna, you sound like such a high energy person. And you can go to AA, and share all this great stuff, and people glean a lot from you probably. But I think your next step of growth is to go there and not be okay, and let people see you being less together.
And that actually is the part of you that you need to explore, and probably in therapy, and that's probably connected to your childhood where you felt like you had to, growing up with your brothers, you probably had to be in that role
and not be a burden to anyone.
Correct. You probably couldn't have your own stuff, right, because your parents were already dealing with so much.
I hope that's helpful, Jenna.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So getting with a therapist and you allowing yourself, that's what I was saying, allowing yourself to experience those emotions and process through them, which is going to take some time.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to feel the relief as there's more space that is created inside of you. Jenna, we're going to send you a copy of the Life Recovery Bible, which has all kinds of great devotionals that go along with that. But we're also going to get you connected with the Life Recovery Group, because that may be a great way for you in this time. Thank you for calling.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for your life and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I just want to remind you, because I know we have so many people that are listening on podcasts or listen at different times. You can call us with your question Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays from 1 to 3 Eastern Time. And it's 1-800-229-3000. And so, maybe that's your appointment that you set, that I need to call in and talk to the folks at New Life. We would love for you to call us. We are going to go back to the calls right now, and we're going to talk with Jim, who's calling us from Baltimore, Maryland, listens on WAVA. Hi, Jim. How can we help you today?
Yes. I am faced with a circumstance that I don't know what to do. My circumstance is there's a neighbor that lives next to me. And I found out about 3 years ago, my first wife died almost 30 years ago. Okay. From metastatic breast cancer.
So sorry.
My second wife died of pancreatic cancer. And I've been labeled as the neighborhood wife killer.
Oh,
what?
Gosh.
That's awful.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
And I traced it to my next door neighbor. Through no investigation myself, it came to me voluntarily from another neighbor. And since that time, I have lost 4 neighbors. I've always been in good standing in my neighborhood. I live here now for 50 years. And I'm getting paranoid because of the things that have been spread about me. And 2 weeks ago, I was in the supermarket, and I am unmarried now, and I've decided to go the rest of the way myself with God's help. And I'm 80 years old now.
Wow.
And I have a hole in my heart from my loss of my 2 heartbeats.
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, I found out 2 weeks ago from another neighbor in the supermarket that I've been married. I'm married again. And my next door neighbor is spreading these rumors that are full of disease. I haven't taken any steps outward yet to combat this. And before I do, I need to talk with you.
So the rumor is that you're married again? That's the rumor? Is that what you're saying, Jim?
Well, that's not the fact that I've been named a wife.
Right, and
the
your
neighborhood wife killer.
And your second wife died 3 years ago? Is that what you said?
No, she died almost 11 years ago.
Okay. So the first one 30 years ago, and then you remarried, and then 11 years ago, and you've been single ever since?
Yes. Yes.
And they both died of cancer. And
yeah.
Well, Jim, let me ask you this, because I don't want us to run out of time before we help you. Is this a new neighbor?
No, he's been here for 25 years.
Okay.
And what he does, I used to have my garage door open, and he would come in and we would talk, and he would ask me questions. I didn't realize what he was doing, but he would take what I would say and spread it to these other 3 neighbors who I've lost, who turn their back toward me when I drive down the street.
Oh. Wow. Jim, we're so sorry that you've been victim of a rumor mill. Basically, he has slandered you, and I and also the losses that you're experiencing in this time of life. But Marc and Jill, how can we help Jim move past this, get some healing, and get some redemptive relationships so that it doesn't really matter what the neighbor is saying, right?
I've been trying to get myself to that, and my wound has been opened 2 weeks ago again, and like I said, I've lived here for 50 years, and I plan to, so to speak, die here. And I've thought of moving, and I don't want to do that so late in my life.
No.
Right.
I don't know what to do.
Marc, how about you,
Wow,
start?
I'm so sorry, Jim. That's an awful thing to have happen to you. It sounds like you do have some allies because you had that neighbor who met you in the grocery store and told you, what's being said about you. Your neighbor sounds very immature. I was going to ask, actually, if it was a kid, but it doesn't sound like it's a kid. It sounds like it's an adult who's acting like a kid. And I mean, I can understand that once you hear these things, I wonder, though, because you were talking about being paranoid here, Jim, I wonder, sometimes when we have these fears, right, we drive along the street and someone's mowing their lawn and they're not looking at us and we think, oh my gosh, they're purposefully ignoring me, right? Because it feels in the narrative that we've had planted. I think what I would do if I were you is I would just make an effort to talk to the neighbors who you were once close with, who you think, are now maybe ignoring you. So that's what I would do. And maybe not even just to say, I think you've heard these rumors, just to try and engage with them just in a friendly neighborhood way, right? Hey, how you doing? How's everything going? How are your kids? And see what happens, right? And if they engage with you, maybe it is a little bit of paranoia that you have going on. And then if they don't, maybe you do address with them, hey, you may have heard these things about me, and that's not true. And actually, it deeply hurts me that somebody would say that about me. And I'm praying for my neighbor because I wish he wouldn't say things like that, but I have no control over those things. But I want you to know that it's not true, and it's actually really hurtful toward me.
Right.
Jill?
And I have forgiven him.
Good for you.
To God. I prayed that I forgive him, but it opened it all up again on me.
Of course it did. And so I think people that know you and love you, and again, the neighbor that told you, who is maybe more supportive, I think getting some perspective from those people, so you can kind of test out, like Marc was saying, the paranoia, and maybe trusting the fact that you have been there 50 years. And I'm wondering if this man next door, if there's been anything in the last 25 years that maybe he's been disgruntled about, upset with you about, felt hurt by you in some way. And at some point, I might consider going to him and asking him that. If you have done anything over the years to hurt him, because you did hear some disturbing information, and like Marc said, it's hurt you deeply.
And I love that idea too, Jim, because here's the thing. It's not to call him out, but just to say, I'm really sad that after all these years living next door, that that you have a different opinion of me than is true, and it hurts my feelings. And I forgive you. I just wish that it was different. And we're sad about this, Jim. I also think it'd be great to reach out to your church family to get new connections as you in these later years that are so valuable, and we don't want you to be alone.
Right.
So we'll also I'm going to send you a copy of a book that I can't think of the name right now.
Thanks for listening.
And it'll be great.
We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.